Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of One Man, One Voice. Appreciate you all being here today. I have an exciting episode that I'm going to be putting out probably in the weeks to come, but I actually wanted to talk to people, a specific audience. I guess this could apply to anybody, but people who feel like they are behind in life. And you could be, I don't know, teenager, you could be in your 20s, you could be 30s, whatever age you are at. This applies to you, or at least the episode applies to you. And I just want to start off by saying, I also felt like I was behind in life. Definitely not where I wanted to be or thought I would be. And, that bothered me for a long, long time, many months. And I just couldn't get over it. If you're some type of driven person, if you're a charger, you want to get after life, or you just always had a vision of where you would be in life, and you get somewhere and it's not where you want to be, that can be a very frustrating thing to deal with. And you can get angry. You'd start letting others know, just complaining and just a bunch of different things, venting, whatever it is. But I think the worst part is probably comparing. Comparing really does kill, so to speak, because it's so easy, especially in this world, to look around you and see five different people who are uh, many, many moons ahead of you, so to speak, that are just on another level of success. You've got the PhDs, you've got people who are getting their doctorates, you've got people who are becoming lawyers and working at law firms or whatever it is. They have the friends, they have the family, they have the career. They've just bought a new house, a car, or whatever it is. And of course, you hop on Instagram or LinkedIn or wherever it is you go, and you type in, name or something, or you see somebody and you go on their page and you see how successful they are. And it's like somebody puts a mirror up in front of you, and all you see is yourself, and you see what you haven't done, and you see they are the same age as you or similar in age, and they've accomplished so much more than you. And if you're not careful, it can make you feel depressed because you just feel like, well, I'm never going to get to that point, or, oh man, like, I feel bad because they're my age and, they have this much success and I'm, still trying to figure things out. Um, and I'll say this, that when you are at that point, when you get to the point of where, you don't feel like you're where you want to be, the road to that point, to where you're actually happier with where you're at and content, is not short. It's not a short road to get there. It's a long, windy road. And for some of us, success doesn't necessarily come early in life. Success can come later in life, as frustrating as it is to accept that or know that. It's not always the path that you're on is not the same as another person. Everybody has their own path to take. And for some of us, we do a lot of detours. For others, we're in the valley more so than we're in climbing the mountain or on the top looking down. But, I personally never found it helpful for people to say, well, all of us have go into the valley at some point in our lives. Or, oh, you don't know about that you don't know what they're dealing with behind the scenes. And, my response was commonly, well, it doesn't matter, because in the moment right now, how I feel is, I feel a lot of feelings of hopeless and, like I'm not going to reach that point in my life and it's taking forever and I'm frustrated and I'm angry and all this stuff. And it's a very difficult thing, again, when you had an expectation of where you would be in life and you ended up in a spot that you never wanted to be. And some of that is your fault and some of that is not. I could have been leaps and bounds ahead of where I'm at right now, if things were a little different a year ago, if I made different choices or if I wasn't so afraid. And you do have consequences and you have to face the consequences of your actions. For me, I've always tried to think, is this where God wanted me to be? Um, was this the plan all along? Did I do this? And he's just kind of using it, for his good, or he has plans because he can use any situation for good. I didn't really know because there's no audible voice coming down telling you you're on the right track, just keep going. You're confused. You don't know if you're on the right track. You feel like you are way behind everybody else and you want to catch up. And so, the road to that point is very long. I'm not saying it'll take you like 20 years to get to that point, but if you look around, these individuals who don't necessarily make themselves readily known have experienced major setbacks in their lives. And, some are in prison and they get out and they have to restart their lives. Some people, get into drugs or get into alcohol or whatever it is, and they mess up their life and they end up having to fix things, whether legal problems or just, broken relationships or whatever it is, fix their life or health. And then once they do that, then they can start going forward in the right direction. So just because somebody next to you has, seems to have their life together, they're in school or they know exactly what they want to do with their life. Just what I would think of is stay in your lane. And I remember hearing this from someone, and the way I interpreted it is keep your head down and just focus on you. And I know that's more self-centered, but if you just think about other people, what they're doing, how successful they are, you just continue to put up this mirror and continue to look at your own life and examine every aspect of it and how far behind you are. And yeah, it's true you're far behind, but I mean, what are you going to do? You're in the situation right now and you can't just snap your fingers and all of a sudden you're a multimillionaire with friends and, you know, everything that you've ever wanted. It doesn't happen like that. It happens over time. And and maybe, you know, what we think of as realistic is fantasy. Not everybody's going to be the millionaire. Um, it is possible. I think you could become a millionaire. I'm not saying you can't become one, but maybe you're not going to become like a multimillionaire, billionaire, winning the lottery, whatever. Um, you can change some things, like you can save more than you spend. You can get a different job that's higher paying. You can do a lot of things to try and better yourself. But for the people that feel like they're just too far behind, yes, it's hard not to focus on that because you recognize that you're too far behind and you feel bad and all this other stuff. But try and just keep your head down and stay in your lane and stop focusing on other people and what they're doing and how successful they are in life. I know it doesn't help for people to come on and say, oh, well, I was at this point in my life, or oh, you may see that I'm successful, but I'm actually not. It doesn't help. It doesn't help us that feel that way, and so just keep your head down and try your best, and um, you know, have a goal, or whatever you want to set your sights on for the future, and slowly go towards it. And over time, you will get closer and closer, um, and eventually, hopefully, you'll reach it. But until then, I think the enemy is comparing. I think for people who feel like there's behind, that can really put them in a bad spot. And, you know, when you're comparing yourself, what I found is, you compare yourself behind the scenes. You're at your home, or you're out in public, and you're looking around and you're seeing all these people driving the fancy cars and wearing nice things, and they seem like, it's something that you want. I would just say comfort as far as financial and some type of success. But, when you step outside into the world, it's calm. I mean, you're not having 1,000 voices telling you you're behind in life. And you might, you go outside, and this is for me. I go outside and I hear the birds, and I see the sun has risen, and it's nice outside. And, it almost seems like all that stuff that you worry about, the stuff that you ruminate on, is kind of just a waste of time. Like life isn't as scary as you think. You know, it's scarier in your head than it is in real time. Um, but just I would say, if comparing yourself is something that you tend to do very easily, I would limit your time on LinkedIn. I'd limit your time on social media. If it's too much of an issue, just delete the stuff altogether. I mean, you can just create another one at some point, whatever it is you use. You can create it again later on. You don't have to get off of it forever, but focus on yourself. And that might mean starting at ground zero. It might mean um, you're working at fast food, or you're working at CVS, or wherever it is. Like for me, got out of school and had to start back essentially almost at zero, um, and now have probably years before I reach some type of success that I've wanted. And I'm not a person that is so focused on success. I'm not that type of person where all I've ever wanted is success. I'm more of the quiet, just I want enough to survive on, but I don't need like millions of dollars. Um, I could live in a van, or an RV, or, a tiny home, or the guy who lives outside of town, has an old pickup truck, and doesn't bother anybody, but comes in every so often, to get his stuff and chats with people, and then keeps to himself. Not the one that is brandishing all of his wealth and all that stuff to people, and living the most luxurious life. That's just what I'm more attracted to, that type of lifestyle. But I think everybody at some point wants success in life. Like, you don't want to feel like a failure, for your entire life. You want to know that you did something. But in any case, I'll leave it there. And so I hope that, you found some of this interesting at least. these are just life lessons I learned from years of feeling like this. And one moment you feel successful and like you finally on the right track, and then boom, something hits and back to ground zero. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I appreciate anybody who's come on here and listened to this episode. And as always, have a good rest of your day and take care.